What's going on, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. What's up? Hey, just excited to be with you today. We got another fun episode with you on this podcast. It's always fun to think of topics and to do this stuff. If you have any topics you want covered, if you can feel free to email me, Isaac at civilengineeringacademy.com. But these are always fun things to talk about. Today, I wanted to talk about how to deal with challenging personalities. So I actually bring my brother Mark on, and we just kind of hash out dealing with challenging personalities, whether that's at the workplace, which is mainly where it is, but workplace, if you're dealing with management, or you're dealing with supervisors, or you're dealing with like foremen, general foremen. You got a design, you're going out there to talk to them about an issue, things of that nature. So these are just life skills, soft skills, things that come up. Because when you are an engineer and you have to design this stuff, eventually the rubber meets the road and you're going to be in the hot seat of trying to answer questions on things. And sometimes you're not going to like that conversation sometimes. So it's important to learn how to deal with some very challenging or difficult personalities that are out there. And so that's what we wanted to talk about today. So it's going to be a good episode. Excited to share it with you, and it's coming right up. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I got Mark with me. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, just, jumping on with you again. I always enjoy this.
Sweet.
It's always a good time.
I agree. It's always a good time. So today I want to talk about challenging personalities.
Ooh,
There's
challenging.
Always someone at work.
There always is somebody at work. Yep.
And I guess it doesn't have to be at work necessarily. It could be, other customers you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's just the people that you work with. Sometimes, it could be a boss, maybe it's one of your subordinates. Maybe you're the head of a team or something, and you have somebody on your team that's a little difficult to work with. But I think those kind of things get escalated because it's your work, right? That's your livelihood. You're trying to do a good job, and there's people that might be in your way, and they have difficult personalities, to deal with. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so I will share this. You have to be careful what you share now, because we're talking about work, and we still work. So.
That's true.
When I was first a transmission engineer, I remember I specifically worked with this general foreman, and I think he was pretty new too. But I get out there on the job, and he was just real quick to tear me a new one. And I learned over time that some people, that's just like, at least for him, that's just how they communicate sometimes.
Yeah.
And once they get to know you, because there's always friction between like engineering and guys in the field that are actually building the stuff. Sometimes there's friction there.
There's always some friction there.
Yeah. So maybe you got some difficult personality things going and brewing there already. And then you guys have to talk about the actual project, and that could be a challenge too. But usually after they get warmed up to you, you can figure things out together. And if you appreciate listening to them, then that's going to go a lot further than just telling them to screw it. So,
yeah. And you're describing most superintendents, Isaac, that have been.
Oh,
yeah, because they're dealing with a tough situation. They're trying to build a job, and they're trying to hit costs, right, that were basically imposed on them from some estimate that some guy in an office, an estimator, put together, right? And so they're getting pressure that way. And then on top of that, they've got pressure to hit a schedule. They've got to deliver what they're building at a certain time. So they've got that pressure. And then they're managing all the personnel that report to them. Then on top of that, sometimes they're working for, another, maybe they're a subcontractor and there's another general contractor above them. But even if they're the general contractor, there's the owner that's above them that's giving them pressure. So they get squoze from all ends. And so they get a little rough sometimes because of that pressure.
So maybe we can discuss some tips in order to diffuse the situation. Could be a supervisor, could be a coworker, could be the GF or whoever you're working out in the field. So, I think the first thing that I learned is definitely to listen to them, to listen to that person. They obviously have something to say. If something's already emotionally charged, or there was a mistake made out in the field or something, it's easy to match that that escalation. But I think if you can take a step back and realize you're just trying to solve a problem here together, it's helpful to listen. Maybe that should be the most important skill. I don't know.
No, that's really important. Even if that person is already amped up and they're already really emotional and they're screaming, you can listen calmly, and then just try. You're still trying to understand them. Obviously, it's easier to do that the more you know somebody and the longer you've worked with them, and you can understand maybe what's ticked them off and what's triggered their emotional response that they're going through. But yeah, even though they may be screaming, listen to them.
Okay.
Until they feel acknowledged, or they feel like you understand them.
What if you come into a situation like that and you just got a smirk on your face and you're smiling and you're kind of
a little disrespectful?
Yeah, what does that look? Well, how does that go down?
Yeah, that doesn't go down. If that person screaming senses that there's a little bit of air of disrespect there, or if you're losing eye contact, or you're looking at your phone or doing something else, that communicates that body language that you're not interested in what they're saying, it'll just escalate it, right?
Yeah, I think it shows that you're not respectful of this person. If you're laughing at them, if you're treating it like maybe you know more in the situation than they know,
yeah,
that's not gonna go well.
Yeah, and that might be like an instinctive reaction, is to laugh because you're maybe trying to diffuse the tension, I guess, but that's usually not a good idea. if emotions have heightened to those levels,
Yeah. So I think probably don't come into it that way. You should probably come in trying to stay calm, and it's going to take a real effort, I think, to probably stay calm. But if you can remove yourself a little bit from the situation, take a breather, and try to stay calm, I think that's going to stay calm, listen to the person. That's going to help a lot.
Yeah. And sometimes that's tough. I've been involved in situations where the person that's mad, you don't feel like they're justified in being that and feeling that way, because maybe it's a recurring thing. The same problems keep recurring over and over again, and you've kind of had enough of what's been happening, and so you don't want to stay calm. You want to like scream and tell them how incompetent they are, or whatever the situation is. But it's hard to stay calm when things have escalated, when you don't feel that the person that's angry is justified in even feeling that way. So sometimes it's hard, but it needs to be that needs to be the way that you approach things. You gotta stay calm.
I think those are good points. I think also we don't want to like act defensively, and I think we're describing situations that are probably really extreme, but I think it's also helpful because I'm sure every engineer will probably have an experience with somebody where either you've made a mistake or something on the job just went wrong, and things do escalate. So,
yeah, because I guarantee if you're an engineer, if you're a design engineer of any kind, you're going to be probably put on the spot at some point in your career, having designed something that maybe isn't working, it's not fitting together, or it's costing the contractor more money than he anticipated. and you'll be on the hot seat.
Yeah, and I don't know if engineers like. I think when I got out of school, I don't think you're really taught this very well. But at every point in a design, the rubber meets the road, and there will be an interface point where you are the guy.
Yeah.
You're the guy.
It's all nice when you've got your design, and if you're a structural engineer, then you've got your BIM model, and everything works great and fits together in theory. And then out in the field, when it's actually getting executed, sometimes things don't work, or you realize that you've overlooked something. Something doesn't fit. We have incidences like that all the time in my line of work. So
I think another tip too is don't demand people's compliance. Don't demand that they do things. This all kind of rolls up to listening, which is probably why it's probably the number one thing we're talking about. But if you're demanding compliance on certain things, even if I think you may be above them in your title or rank, it's not gonna go well for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's talk about not judging somebody too, which can be hard to do, especially if you've got a long track record with them, right, Isaac?
Yeah.
You got to try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I like to do that with my superintendents because I encounter a lot of heated situations. And so that's the first thing I try to do is understand where that superintendent's coming from. Because like I say, he's under a lot of pressure. And so if you can understand what has got him riled up, he's trying to, make a pour, and everything and anything that could go wrong, is going wrong. And he's just frustrated because he's under so much pressure. Reflecting, respect and dignity and understanding towards them, can diffuse a lot of tension.
Yeah.
So he understands that you understand where they're coming from. It really helps diffuse the tension.
This is probably also a marriage tip, but I think it helps when you say I'm sorry, or I made a mistake.
Yeah.
That also goes a long way. So little marriage tip for you too out there.
Well, that helps garner respect too. I'm always been a big advocate of admitting your mistakes and owning what you've done. If it's your fault, then admit it. I'm sorry, man. Let's figure out how to fix this.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any other tips to diffuse a situation?
Yeah, just try to understand that. Put yourself in their shoes and try to understand their position. Once you've been able to if you can pull that off, then man, that is huge in going towards diffusing the situation. Because once you understand, you have some empathy for that person and what they're going through, then man, it's just a lot easier to get to a solution and figure out the best way to go forward.
And going back to judging, I'm thinking a lot of times, I remember I had a manager one time, and you just never know if they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or what's going on in their home life, or what their drive was to work, if they got flipped off and somebody cut in front of them. And then they get to work and they deal with all the pressure there too, and the stress can build up. So it is helpful not to judge, and it's also helpful sometimes to find the hidden meaning, or to read between the lines of really what's going on in this person's life, of why they have a difficult personality or even a situation. So
sure. I think if your attitude is, I'm going to try and understand that person before I try to make myself understood, I think that's the way to go. Come in with that attitude. Okay, even though maybe I'm mad at this guy or I don't agree with what's going on, I'm going to try to understand his point of view, his perspective or her perspective, before I try to communicate my perspective or my reasons for doing what I'm doing. That always goes a long way.
So I'm just thinking out loud here, but a lot of times difficulties in personality. I have heard, and I maybe have seen some stats on this. I don't know, but typically I have heard that the biggest reason why people leave a position in a workplace is because they just do not get along with the manager.
Yeah.
I mean, what any advice, tips, ways to handle that? I mean, it could fall in these same kind of things, but what if the personalities there just do not mix?
Well, sometimes that happens. My opinion on that is if you're not getting along with somebody, it's because you don't know them. You don't have an appreciation. Maybe you don't understand their background, where they're coming from, what motivates them. You just don't have I guess, a deep enough relationship, a working relationship with them to really understand what drives them, what motivates them, and maybe how you fit into that scenario. Because every manager has a set of goals and he has a set of priorities, and you're if you're working for him, then you've got to fit into those priorities and those goals that he's got. And so, trying to understand where he comes from and his background, and try to gain an appreciation for that manager, he or she, that you're not getting along with, is really, really key. But I mean, I'd understand that there's certain situations that you just can't, I don't know, there's just no way to get working. It's just not working. And maybe their background is just so foreign to you that you just can't understand anything that's coming out of this guy or this lady that's managing you, what their goals are or anything else. You just can't get there. I can see that happening too, but I don't know. It just, if you're butting heads with the manager and you're not getting along, I think it's just because maybe you just don't understand what makes them tick.
Yeah.
What are their goals? What do they want out of this organization?
And I think at the end of the day, you can trust your instincts on things like that. Like if that's not working out, it's probably a good indicator that it didn't work for other engineers too, usually.
Yeah. So, well, and I've seen managers in the organizations that I work for that tend to alienate everybody, and they go through lots of people that have gone into their team organization and tried to get along with them. And then they get alienated, and then, okay, here comes the next guy, and bam, he gets alienated, and they have an argument and split up. And so I can see that sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it just doesn't work sometimes, but
yeah, I think so. Just trust your instincts on those kind of scenarios. Obviously, I don't think a one type of response fits all situations. So, we're covering a lot of stuff between diffusing a big argument to personality issues with your manager, which can be an issue. So anyway, those are all good things. I think at the end of the day, though, if you've come out of an argument and, you've done your best to diffuse, the anger that's there, that you came out not looking like a jerk, and that you've made your best effort to solve the problem, I think you can give yourself a pat on the back and giving yourself kudos for giving the best shot of trying to do that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And it doesn't always work, but if you come in with these attitudes that we're talking about, staying calm and trying to understand that person being your first motivation, understand their point of view. you're going to have a lot more success doing that than you won't. Your probability for success will be pretty high.
Yeah. Well, good deal. Anything else you want to hit on about challenging personalities?
It's just that conflicts, are going to arise, and you got to learn how to deal with it. And I think just developing understanding of those people that you work with, where they come from, what motivates them, what values they hold dear, all of those things are important. You can't just be a worker that just, and some of us, that are a little more introverted, we're not maybe an extroverted type personality that doesn't want to maybe interface with people. And I would say, a lot of engineers would probably fall in some of these categories. They're maybe a little more introverted and they don't want to interface with a lot of people. But man, it just doesn't matter what part of the business you're in. You got to interface with people, and you got to develop relationships with people, and it's really all about relationships. And once some of the best relationships I have in the industry that I'm in are because we've had big, difficult problems that have gotten heated, and we've had arguments, but we've worked through them. And now we're like, best friends after it's all said and done. And then when we're involved again in another project and a problem comes up, it's way easier to deal with that person again, because we've already had
you hashed it out.
We've hashed it out. We've already fought out, and they know me and I know them, and we just come from a point of understanding, and it's a lot easier. But you're always gonna have a better chance of winning if you're not, acting defensively. You're listening and you're seeking to understand that person before you try to be understood yourself. So,
hey, that sounds like the book 7 Habits.
Oh yeah, that's kind of a Stephen Covey kind of a thing, huh?
We'll link it in the show notes.
Oh, that's good.
I'll read it, everybody.
It's good stuff.
Well, cool. Hopefully these tips and tools will help you if you have to diffuse a situation at work, or you are dealing with a difficult personality or a challenging personality. Hopefully that's these tips and tools and resources will help you as well. So, Mark, thanks for jumping on. It's always fun to do this.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me again. Good times.
All right. Well, have a good one. See ya.
Okay. See ya.
Bye. Has anyone ever dealt with a challenging personality? Like, ever? I don't think so.